in this front row. That's so nice. I have just celebrated 7 years with my boyfriend, which, thank you. Yes, it is exciting because it's like the longest relationship I've ever had in my. This is so long. I'm like this close to deleting Hinge. Do you know what I mean?
Hello, Micky.
Hello.
Micky Overman. So how was the gig? Literally, you can hear the music downstairs.
We can.
It's in the break.
There's a vibe.
There's a vibe downstairs.
Yeah.
Pump the Jam. It's literally playing Pump the Jam.
There's a good vibe downstairs. They were good, hey?
They were good.
Yeah. We both did the gig.
Yeah.
Are you always on the gigs that you
Yes,
have to get?
usually.
Okay. So yeah.
Sometimes I'm emceeing and we do it after the show.
But it's so you get the same, like you know what the vibe is. Yeah, nice. Good.
And what were your thoughts before you went on?
Well,
reading
Barry,
the room and the kind of like. Yeah.
Let's toot your horn and say that because it's the Bill Murray, I feel very different at the Bill Murray than I do anywhere else. This is my favorite place to gig, and it's like I never worry that it's gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
So, but I did have a little moment because I've been taking some time. This is my summer of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard about it. And so I've mostly been at the Lido.
Yeah.
So
the Lido pool party.
Listen, it's all about how can I be as relaxed as possible this whole summer. So I haven't been gigging normally. I'm a really I gig a lot, and I haven't been. And this would still not be like I still gigged last week, but it had been a week. And so there was a moment where I was like, do I know this?
Yeah.
And it was only like a second.
Yeah.
And as soon as I stepped on stage, it was gone.
Yeah.
But there was a second where I was like, do I know it? Do I know how to do this? Yeah.
I think that's reassuring for people to hear. Like one of the most reassuring times that I ever saw anyone be nervous was Dara O'Brien coming to. It was when it was at the Camden Head before this existed, and seeing how nervous he was before to this room of there was 100 people in it at the time, and just pacing up and down. There's something really reassuring as a newer comedian to go, oh, that happens for everyone. Okay, especially because he hadn't performed for like a month or a couple of months,
and it happens way more at other places as well. It's it's for me. It's like however many unknowns there are. So there are very few unknowns here. The only unknown here is that there's a new audience. But when you come to a new place, how big is the stage? Like how much room do you have? How does it feel? What is the mic like? What is the stand like? Like all these things are kind of unknowns, and so that kind of increases. If you've never. I've recently been playing slightly bigger rooms and sometimes very, very big ones, and that is every time you go to a room that's bigger, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So what do we do here?
Yeah, and do you have a kind of internal protocol for that then? So like, say for example, like my friend Claire Murphy, who's a storyteller, is quite ritualized in the way that she does things before she goes on stage. Also,
I have no ritual.
There's you don't burn anything.
No effigies. No,
nothing like that.
No.
But like, so for example, did you have an internal ritual today? That not ritual is the wrong phrase, but an internal kind of thought about, oh, can I do it? Or anything that you...
No, I have nothing.
Or what when you
I like that you keep adding more detail.
Okay, yeah.
There's nothing there.
But like the big gig that you did, that massive gig, which is your biggest gig, was there just like literally... You didn't have to talk to yourself. You didn't go, okay, Micky, I've got this. No. You didn't phone anyone in particular. You didn't have anything like that. Just like, I'm kind of the same. I'm reassuringly the same. Just it's like jumping off a bridge.
But it's also like the more that's like you're thinking about it. I try to just not. My ritual is to not think about it, even when I'm right there.
Yeah.
I'm just. It's like I try to not think about the fact that there's 1,700 people.
Oh, that would do your head in, right?
Yeah, because it would do your head in. And I feel like if I had a ritual, and maybe this is not true, but I feel like if I had a ritual for me, what it would do is it would just make me nervous. It's about to happen. It's about to happen. It's about to happen. Whereas I try to turn my brain off almost, and then it's like I go on stage.
Yeah, trust the muscle memory of it, kind of like.
Totally. Yeah. You know what to do.
Yeah.
And the nice thing has been about these bigger gigs has been it's like, oh, this you just have more room. Like there's just more room there. It's like
when you say more room on stage, you mean?
Yeah, on stage, but also like room to breathe. There's so many. It's like when you play smaller gigs, you can hear every laugh. and sometimes that can feel very personal.
Yeah.
It feels almost a little bit less personal, like they're more of a like blackness blob.
Yeah. And so the room is also, I suppose, in the audience response is a little bit, it comes slower because it comes in waves, because literally sound, it takes longer to travel, but then it kind of lasts longer, so it's almost like everything slowed down from an audience response, would you say?
That's what it felt like, definitely. And look, they were nice and they were there for me, so that was a little bit different. But I've also done some where I'm opening for someone, and opening is not the easiest job because they don't want to see you.
They want somebody else.
They want to see someone else.
This isn't the person.
So, but even those, it's like they're still there for the gig, and especially like the people I was opening for, I feel like they knew someone would be there. I got introduced as a friend. Like, if it all felt a bit like welcoming. Yeah. But they're still not there for you, so it's still a harder job. But I feel like it's just like it comes in you in waves, and it's It's quite nice. I quite like it.
Yeah.
And then also, like, I like both. I'm worried that when I say I like it, that I'm like, and I will now only play these
1,500 or more. I don't like. That's my thing now.
Yeah. Even though I've only done one, I'm like, yeah. That's kind of like it's in my rider. It's in my rider actually.
I've just graduated.
I need 1,500 people to be here. Yeah.
Could you have some people out on the street at the Bill Murray?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just in my rider.
But, Bill Murray.
There's so the bigger gigs, did you find that you also kind of once you'd done one or two then relaxed in the sense of you found it less nerve-wracking to go there in general?
I think it just was more, I think it's the same. So like the nerves were there until the first laugh, and then you can tell a lot from that. So like there was one that really big one, they were just there. So first laugh. Also, this was on my tour and I had support, and I've been doing the whole tour by myself. And this was, because this was my first tour, and I was like, I need to make money, and I can't afford
to travel with somebody.
That's really expensive. And they had sort of like shown me a breakdown of what how much of the percentage of the profit would go to basically having a support act with you, because you want to get them their accommodation and their travel, as I think you should. And I was like, I can't do that. So I only did it for the two bigger ones that I did. And Patrick Spicer, my boyfriend, had opened for me, and I was like, this is so easy. I was like, oh God, okay, I've made it so hard. Like it was hard doing it myself.
And because beforehand you just have this, like, if they haven't laughed, you walking out you have to build them up, but just have had somebody else there like, I can read the audience already. Like today it's just like
exactly. And you're playing two roles, because you're doing the warm-up, but then you're also the act. So it's almost like, even though like they
don't know it,
they don't know, but I know that I've now become I've kind of like changed my status or something by saying like, because you
explaining
it. Basically,
because you do. There's an element of kind of emceeing as a master of ceremonies.
And you're like, and what's going to happen is I'm going to be doing this, and then afterwards I'm going to be doing my show. Like it's like it's kind of weird. I mean, I made fun of it. And like, we had laughs.
Why is Ozzy Osbourne?
Exactly.
Introducing.
That's from my joke.
Yeah. So I suppose as well, you say you cannily, like, you save money on accommodation costs by having your boyfriend open for you.
Well, he wasn't supposed to do it.
He wasn't supposed to do it.
He actually wasn't supposed to do it. Yeah. I had a different friend who couldn't do it, and then I had another girl, and she got sick.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
he stepped in.
Yeah, and then Patrick and I said to him like, I was like, please do it, but also you can't do half of the material that you do, because we have overlap, because we both talk about our lives.
Things. It's like you can't be like, I'm just gonna do the
and I so he, I have this show I talk about trying for a baby, and he has some of his best material at the moment is about trying for a baby, and I was like, you can't do any of that, because the problem is, and this is so silly, and people are like, hey, you're exaggerating. But because I talk about him in my show, if he's someone they know and already like, they won't laugh when I say, my boyfriend does this thing that's annoying.
Yeah.
Because they're like, but we know him and we love him.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. So it's like, we just have to kind of pretend that you're not my boyfriend.
Yeah.
So I came on stage and I was like, you know, I introduced him and I was like, I brought a friend with me. And then some people will know because, you know, it's not like we're hiding it. But I was just like, most people won't know.
Yeah.
So,
of course.
we're just going to pretend.
But that's what any act would do with a sport act. They say, can you not do this joke because I got one of those?
Yes, totally.
That's totally.
But I don't think most people would say, can you please scrap half of it?
Yeah.
And this is last minute. You know,
you're doing me a favor, but
you're doing me a favor. You're jumping. I mean, obviously I paid it, but like you're jumping on like everything about this is. You know, it's a big room. You've never played it before. Like I'm throwing you in. Like I know you could do it, but it's like, but you have to do it with a handicap.
I'm throwing you in. I'm throwing you into the pool, but one arm only.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is, you know, but I mean, also a lot of that is kind of crowd work and being there, and you know, and kind of taking that.
Like
role,
I knew he'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
that wasn't the problem.
Yeah. But it's so funny when he went on stage. Did you or you introduce him?
Yeah.
Did you hear like? I'm just curious of the logistics. Some people would have known.
Yes.
Was there a kind of whisper around where you heard like partners?
I didn't hear it.
Somebody going, that's what
I didn't hear it. I think also because it was the Dutch shows in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I think people maybe there's less probably like people who love the British comedy scene and maybe know a little bit more about the ins and outs of who's dating who and you know, that kind of stuff.
It wouldn't be on their radar.
It's not on their radar. So it would have just been people who follow me on Instagram and then would have been like, oh my god, I follow her boyfriend as well, like that kind of way.
Well, you do talk. I mean, that was the first thing you talked about on stage today about Netherlands.
My name is Micky. I am from the Netherlands. Yeah, thanks.
For a long time, always opened with the Dutch thing, right? Acknowledged the thing that's strange or potentially confusing about you, and so that they don't start doing maths in their heads and stop.
They don't get in the way of
stop listening.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I was working on a show, and my director and friend had said to me like, "Do you want to know what your crutches are?" And I was like, yes, absolutely. I want to get, because I said to him, I'm always growing. I'm getting incrementally better, but I want to get a lot better. I felt like I need to do something. And he was like, well, I can tell you what your crutches are. And one of the crutches was, you keep introducing yourself. You know, he was like, every he was like, you're it's almost like you're saying like, I need to introduce myself so you can understand why I'm here. And he's like, but you've proven it. You're here. You're good. And he's like, you don't need to do that. And maybe you should try not doing that so that you kind of get away from that crutch, like get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I'd never start, and I feel like that's a privilege of if you grow up in this country, you can just start talking. You know, maybe there's something else you need to acknowledge, but like a lot of the time it felt to me like you guys can just start talking and I have to say this thing. But that's not true. I've made that up. That's not true. And he said to me, you're good enough, you can just start talking. So I started doing that, and it's been fine. Like absolutely. Nobody's
put their hand up after 2 minutes. Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me.
The only place where it would probably still be applicable is in club gigs. You know, in like super clubby clubs. Then I'd still do it because that's the job. You know, they're not there. But here, new material gigs, like just
nobody cares.
Just take some risks. Be brave. So that was one of the things I did to get out of it.
And when you say the be brave, what were the so taking the crutch away? That's got to be whoa, like you know. And so
I was literally like, how do you start? You know. And now I would still. I mean, you know, I don't know if people who listen to the podcast, but we do a lot of new material gigs at the other club here. So at the Camden Head, which by the way I love. People have such a like different relationship with it, but for me, because it gets such a international audience, perfect for me. Because those are my people. Like a quintessentially super English audience is not actually going to do that much for me. But people from like Europe, New Zealand, all over, that's perfect. So I love it, and I feel like if it works there, it's a pretty good indication that for me it's going to do well, like online or something. And I just start talking there. I just start talking.
Just like a general conversation. And that has become more familiar. I guess there's the muscle memory of kind of when you got a crutch and you take it away, you just kind of, okay, I've got to build up the strength of that leg kind of thing.
You have
so
to.
it feels wrong, and then you just got to go,
and you get better.
And
you get better when you do it. Pick something that you're bad at and start just doing it. You will get better at it. And that's something I remember like listening to Bill Burr talk about that on podcasts. He would like... I remember very specifically, he said he didn't know how to do a conversation on stage.
Do
you remember this?
I heard this bit. I can't remember where I heard it.
Me neither.
So revelationary. Gone.
So revelationary. He was like, he didn't know how to do a conversation on stage. So doing like both sides of the conversation. And so he just went up night after night and did it.
And hearing another... See, one of my kind of like things that I don't get about the comedy industry per se is like in other industry, in theatre or in storytelling or whatever else you're doing, there's that sense of skill, of building skill. I'm going to do a workshop in this skill, and they do whether it's Meisner technique or scene study class or whatever. But in stand-up there's none of that. So hearing somebody like Bill Burr talk about kind of and there was this technique that I've seen Richard Pryor do that I just I want to do that. Okay, people are laughing, that's great, but I don't know how to do that. And then hearing him feel at sea when he was like going, I don't know how to do it, I've got to figure it out, and then just keep trying. It's very, very supportive.
Isn't it
just
great?
Like it's great.
It's great. Like, and it just it makes things seem achievable. Because I think a lot of the time when you think of comedy, like when you're starting comedy, but you think of comedy as the end product, like the thing that we see on Netflix now, right? Like specials, all that kind of stuff. Then it's so daunting when you start, because that's what you think comedy is, and then you're all the way back here and you're like, well, how? And it seems like they just did it, but they didn't.
Well, which is the trick of it. It seems, but they didn't.
But they didn't, and they tried really hard. And I try to pick like goals and stuff as well. Like whenever I start a new show, I started doing that a couple of years ago with the crutches, and I try to just pick like a performance goal or something, or a writing goal or something. To kind of, this is the thing I also want to get better at. Whilst I write this new thing, I want to also work on getting better at this one thing.
Well, actually, talking about goals, I wonder whether like your goal at the moment, because you referenced this at the beginning of the podcast, whether your goal at the moment is to take a bit of time off. Like, because I think sometimes to actually be effective, like to actually just be going all the time is actually like burning the candle at both ends creatively doesn't always help.
No.
But would that be a bit of a goal for this summer?
It definitely is. To come back and have something to write about. Have something to say, and also to just I guess to have belief in that everything I did before this is enough to take a moment. Because I was talking about it in therapy, and my therapist, she was like, because you've had a busy, I've been doing therapy for a year or something, and she was like, because you have had a busy year. You've been pretty busy this year. She was like, and all I could think was like, this is probably the quietest my life has been in the 10 years that I've been doing this comedy thing, or 9 years. And so I was like, lol that you think this lol that you think this is busy. When I started, I had 3 jobs and this and I've been slowly working my way towards 0 jobs and this, and it took me quite a long time, and so I just think it just made me laugh, and I was like, but now that I've done it, I should also then believe that it's not going to go away. It's not, I put all the work in, and I've accumulated so much, like all the time that I basically work nonstop. All that time I've accumulated probably amounts to like a couple of months not.
Yeah.
You know?
But you say not, and you're still gigging. But it's just you're still
Yeah.
And so it's not time off per se. It's just like there's an element of kind of actually being able to take a breath.
I'm doing little bits of work, but very few.
Which is for you. It's always when when you talk to somebody that's a busy freelancer.
Right.
What's the phrase? If you want something done, ask a busy person.
Yes.
But there's that kind of which is true. Just like you keep moving. Yeah. But again,
so don't ask me to do anything right now.
Well,
I'm way too chill.
There's which even even at chilled, there's still work involved, and there's
always.
Still
I'm still putting clips up online. I'm still, of course.
There's maintenance,
but it's just, it's just, exactly. It's maintenance work. It's not because also I really believe that there's no point me writing anything at the moment because I feel like I need to just live life a little bit.
Well, this is one of the things that I picked up on your set. So one of the things that I really enjoyed was.
Clive mentioned to me that my accent sounds weird. So just to explain, I am Dutch, but I got this accent from watching 90s American TV. Yes. And fucking my Irish ex-boyfriend for long enough. His penis gave me a twang.
So right, and the reason so the reason why I really like that is we've had this conversation before, but you're
Barry, I love talking
leaning. We've spoken before.
We've talked loads
behind
actually.
The curtain. There's not always a camera, but there's a past, and we've shared it. But allowing yourself to be goofy on stage, playful, to mess around, and show that part of yourself without kind of overthinking it and just kind of trusting yourself to. And I really, there was something very playful.
I felt very playful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I was feeling silly.
And I've seen more and more of that. And like your journey. I'm curious for you to talk about that journey as well for you of just and maybe it's similar to the Netherlands thing where it's like, okay, I'm addressing this and now I'm addressing this point.
It definitely is. I think the letting go of some of the rigorousness of the writing was another one of my crutches. Or came out, maybe not so directly, maybe not the silliness, but whenever I feel loose and silly, that part of me comes out, and that's when I have the best time. Right? So that was kind of in the background, but there was this sort of more, I think I was just afraid to be in the room completely because it's vulnerable to actually be there with the people that are there. So there was always, for a long time, and this is, I've worked on this for the last few years, so this hasn't been a problem for a while, but for a long time there was just I wanted to do my jokes and I wanted them to go well, but I was so afraid that it wouldn't, that I stayed sort of almost like I'm doing a television appearance, without being on time. But there's a wall there. There's a kind of almost like a straightness to it. Like I'm doing my stuff well. Yeah. And I'm putting everything into this. Yes, and it was just a bit of a wall with the audience, and I wanted to get rid of that. I was like, I want to be in the room. I want to be, because sometimes I would be, and I would feel so funny. Yeah. And but it would only really ever happen in super low stakes environments, like the new material gig myself and my friends put on. That's when I would do it, because there were already people who think I'm funny. Yeah. And there's permission. There's permission in the room. It's just permission in the room. And I think you have to give yourself that permission. No one's going to do it. So I think I wanted that so badly, so I started putting myself in situations I found very hard, and for me that is emceeing. And you remember my first time. Yeah. I was so nervous. And that's the most nervous I was since my first gig. To MC. I was so afraid of it. But I did it because I wanted to be in the room. And since then, it's changed everything. I am not afraid of the people.
Direct quote. I'm not afraid of the people.
I'm not afraid of the people in my Dutchist way. But it's changed so many things for me. And there are people who it comes naturally to emceeing, and I think you're one of those people. And I always just thought like, well, you're just a different sort.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's untrue, but I do think that like you can learn anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Totally.
And it's just taught me to trust my instincts a little bit more, and so is an instinct, right? And then it's like, I don't know if I would have done that before.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that emceeing does is kind of, it allows you to be yourself. Yeah. Because you can't help but be yourself, because you don't get editorial control over what you say.
Exactly.
So it comes out. So you have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else you can trust.
This is my theory of why emceeing clips do so well online, because they're authentic.
Yeah.
You're not being presented with a well thought, well written, well edited product.
Yeah.
You're seeing someone be like authentic, and not always. There's tricks you can do, but a lot of the time you do see someone just say something funny that came to them. And I think that's why they do so well and why people love them so much. So this has been a journey of something again that I like very consciously worked on,
and that is also, but there's something, another part of it, which is being seen as well. Like when you said did somebody say that's true about audio?
Oh yeah.
I found this out about my looks recently. I found out that I have a celebrity lookalike. Guys, I've never had one. It's so exciting. I found out on Instagram, and I'm on Instagram, so I'm quite excited to tell you guys that according to the people on Instagram, my celebrity doppelganger is in fact Ozzy Osbourne. I googled Ozzy Osbourne young. Bit arrogant. And I googled it, and then I don't actually know what I was expecting, but I definitely wasn't expecting to find my identical twin. I'm here to tell you, I look so much like Ozzy Osbourne. It's absolutely unbelievable. I look more like. Did someone say it's true? It is.
And it kind of,
I heard somebody say
it popped
totally.
the I mean, it was all going great, but there was a different relationship suddenly, and
you're with them,
and you were playfully kind of like with them as well. Like, Mickey was with them rather than Mickey's like, brilliant
Micky Overman, the comedian. Yeah, totally. And that's always what I wanted. I was like, I thought the goal, and this is not the same for everyone, but the goal for me as a performer was like, how can I get as close to who I am in person on stage? Like the way that I'm funny with Patrick would probably be the way that I'm funny in my most vulnerable, most like childlike, joyful, because I feel so safe with him. How can I get as close to that on stage? You're never gonna get there. That's ridiculous. But you're gonna get. You can try to find techniques and ways of replicating that joy, and that's something that I'm going to continue to work on.
And you will always change. You get older and you just things change and you become playfully different, whatever. Yes.
And when I first started, I was, and I always say this to people, I was completely rigid, very deadpan, and it was all fear. So I basically told jokes like. And then my mother said, like in that really deadpan kind of American style, and it worked really well. And because deadpan is a very understood way of telling a joke. So everyone gets the rhythm. Everyone. So it's almost like, like April in Parks and Recreation, if that makes sense to you. Like Audrey Plaza. Like it's that very, everyone gets what you're doing there.
Everyone understands the formality.
Everyone
and
understands. It's like, it's like, it's Mad Libs. Like, you're just filling it with different words, but everyone understands the formula. And so sometimes I always think that whenever some people are very deadpan as a person.
True.
And so they'll do it, and I'm like, God, it's funny that you're like this, because that's such a great way to be to translate to the stage.
I think there is there's luck.
There's luck there, absolutely. So then, so it was going really well, and I remember people would say to me, I love the way you deliver jokes, and I love that you're just standing there and you're just delivering these jokes. And I remember thinking, that is not me.
Yeah.
Like this, we're talking like 8 gigs in. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
and I always think like I could have gone that way and become that act, but it would have been a character act.
Yeah.
And it maybe would have gone really well quicker.
Yeah.
But I remember so vividly being like, oh God, I have to do and I would make myself on stage move.
Yeah.
And it was like it was ridiculous, you know, and slow.
I can't remember that, but I can't remember that.
No, you wouldn't, but I can remember it
the
vividly
feeling
because
within
the
it.
feeling of it, and like, and so I got further and further away from that, and my act became more and more unclear. Further and further away from the depth, I'm more and more unclear. And then it just took a really long time to figure out, but what is it to actually be funny as me?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did it. And I took that route. But yeah, if I hadn't done that, it probably, I think genuinely it would have gone a lot better a lot earlier. But in the long haul, it would have been a mistake.
So again, I'm gonna reference your changing the material bit where you're talking from Ozzy Osbourne to having a baby.
Sabo's good. That's me. My boyfriend and I, we've entered a new phase in our lives. It's actually very exciting. We started trying for a baby, which I've never done it before. I've done it. I'm trying to prove it to you guys. I've had sex before.
The transition from, rather than segue, I saw that, and this isn't me putting words into your mouth, but I'm curious, but where you kind of went, you kind of like, you almost like reorienting yourself into the material. So, and then you got into the material, but
it's for both of us, I think. It's for me and the audience.
Yeah.
Because you're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's a very different type of bit.
Yeah.
And I think it helps to put more space between.
Yeah. The two. Just give a bit of breathing space.
Give a breathing space.
Yeah.
And just slow down and make yourself laugh.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the act outs that you're doing more of.
My sex education was, I had the kind of like sex ed teacher, but he was also like the gym teacher. Do you kind of know what I'm saying? Yeah. To be fair, Dutchest guy on the planet. Walked into class, he just went, some people are men, some people are women together. That's nice.
That was another one of my my goals.
Your goals.
One of my performance goals was get better at act outs. Yeah.
The sperm. Yeah. Let's talk about the sperm.
Yeah.
Right.
Understand now, basically, why only 20% of these like egg and sperm situations actually merge when they're in there. Because if that were me and I was standing there in the dark after everything I've been through, and then a guy comes up to me like soaking wet, just starts dancing around my body, just like, let me in, bro, let me in. I'm your only shot, let me in. I'd be like, I choose death.
I've been working on act outs. It's so funny because I'll say to people like, I wasn't very good at act outs, and they'll say like, that's what I think of you as someone who does act outs.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, I really do now.
Yeah.
And whereas I think I was way more of a just kind of jokey joke writer in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I do way less of that now. And because I have so much fun.
Because you have fun, and that's more you.
It's more me. It's I have so much fun. It's also kind of like coming to terms with what kind of performer you are, because there's a lot of things that are in your control and there's a lot that isn't. So, wanting to become more me also means that letting go of some of the things that just aren't me.
Even if they worked.
Or even if I think they're so cool and I want to be like that,
Is there a thing that you could what's
well,
so cool?
I love my friend Sarah Keyworth a lot,
and
I think that they're one of the most amazing performers.
Phenomenal.
They're they have an incredibly cool, laid back and silly style, but laid back coolness that, it's like sometimes it's almost like, Nate Bargatze has this as well, like in a very different way. But it's almost
Sunil
like
has it as well.
Sunil has it. Like, where are these jokes even coming from? It's just all kind of like, it's just happening.
Everything's so chill.
I mean, I think it's so cool. I think that's the coolest way to perform, and sort of letting go of that thing of like, I'm not like that, and I'm not that type of cool. I don't have that kind of coolness. I don't have a laid backness. My jokes are very clearly marked. They are not subtle. They are not hiding. They are in your face. I leave a long pause after them. I mean, it couldn't be needier. Like, it couldn't.
I didn't think you were going to go there with it.
It is, though. It is like, huh? Right? That's where it was. It's that. And it's kind of, and that I think is not cool, but that is me. So I think it's letting go of that. Like, it's like, you know what? I am just a very very theatrical, like, here's where it is. So then the fact that this act out is very big becomes this kind of like, because that's right.
Which is cool in its kind of like owning it sense, but
no.
But you wouldn't see Sunil. Cool. I mean, if you do know Sunil, imagine Sunil acting up the sperm bit. I can't. Literally
there's no version of it. There's no version of it that exists of him like shaking around his head, closing one eye, and like and that is and so that's been part of. But and then the funny thing is, like, that particular bit of the sperm act out on this bit, I had that idea, and I think it's a good observation to be like, we tell the conception story from the perspective of the sperm, not the egg. And I think that in itself, I thought, like, that's been an observation that I've had for years, where it's been mulling in my head of this sort of like like. The bit never did anything really until the act out.
Really? Okay.
When I did the act out, I was like, oh, this is how it's funny. And now I'm like, it's one of my favorite bits to perform. I'm so proud of it. I think it's the best bit for my show. And it's so funny because it's like, before I would have been like, it would have been about the observation, maybe an analogy in there, something. Because
there are some great lines. It would have been,
absolutely. I'm not taking away from the lines, but it didn't really. It wasn't like to me the showstopper until I did the. Until I just let myself be so lame.
Well, clown around. There is nothing more lame than clowning, but clowning is great. But it is also lame.
It is, but so lame. But it is also great. Yeah, it's lame. But I don't mean this in a negative or self-deprecating way. I am very lame. And I.
So am I. I wish I was less.
Do you know what I mean?
Of
course, we all do. We have the high school person inside of us who's like, man, wouldn't it be cool to be cool?
I just wish I didn't want everyone to like me as much.
All that stuff.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
All
just
that
like
stuff.
On stage, I just think, I look at myself on stage. I go, just chill out, mate. That is me.
And people are like, you're cool, and I'm like, no, I've just owned it now. Which, like you say, is cool. It is cool to, and we all wish we had that fucking thing when we were in high school, to just be like, just own. No one cares if you own it. But now I'm in my 30s now, so now I finally owned it, and
So one of the things about kind of owning that, I do wonder about. So a transition that I always see with people is when you find an audience, and the difference between being able to be yourself when you've got people turning up for you, and what happens there. Whether there's a difference in, so like,
I think it's permission.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it sounds like an element of your permission came from your director as well, of having somebody else there that kind of says, oh, these are your crutches, and also to mentoringly lead you on a way there.
For sure.
But I also think a crowd is a mentor in the sense of, like, they turn up for you and they're ready to laugh kind of before you got on stage in a way. Or I mean, it's so funny because you look on Instagram and a number doesn't really mean anything. It's there, kind of like, but it doesn't have an emotional connection to. But what does is that number can then lead to people in the room that are there to see you.
That's where it is. Yeah, that's where it is, and it's been incredibly rewarding. And because, as people probably know from listening to this podcast, like, there are many different ways of making it as a comedian, and we all kind of started in when we were doing it, we all kind of started on the traditional path, right? And you were gonna do this, and you were gonna do Edinburgh, and that was gonna mean something, and then you would do TV, and that was gonna mean something. Yeah, whatever. Like all those, it was a very set path.
Really set path. And very controlled path.
Very controlled path. And when I came here, I didn't know about any of it because I didn't know. So I just wanted to do comedy. And so but you kind of get swept up by this kind of very rigorous, and it wasn't going that way for me. And so you think you're failing, and then Instagram and online became a different way you could do it that was genuinely made fun of in the beginning. The people that were huge online, people were like, yeah. And then but I just remember seeing it and thinking like, maybe. And then I did that, and it worked, and people came, and all of a sudden, now it's years later, and no one thinks about it as if it's something silly, because it's obviously proven itself to be an incredible, it really works, and it puts bums on seats and all that kind of stuff. But also, like, you get to actually, I think, you don't have to give up as much of yourself as you did I feel like the original way, you probably had to give up a bit more of yourself to then become like a TV act, which is genuinely, like, there's some outliers, but a lot of the time it is just appealing to kind of everyone, everyone of it all. And with this, I just really don't appeal to everyone, and that's okay. You know. And I feel like for being on this tour, for the first time, I've actually met my people. They've come out. It's the first time, because even in Edinburgh, it's still a lot of randos. And so for the first time, I've actually met my audience. They're so nice, Barry. Oh my God. Like I've felt like a bit humbled by it. They all work in like charity.
Do you know
what I mean?
It turns out everyone that likes me is a fucking angel. Beautiful.
They're like really, they just a lot of
imagine it's the other way around though. Imagine you find your audience, oh my God, they're all scumbags.
Like Red. And so, like, and he loves it, he loves it, so it's like whatever, but I would not love that. I would hate that. And I'm like, oh, every time I like did the crowd work, that was the fun thing about doing my own opening. Of discovering it, right? I would ask like, "What do you do?" And they would. I was like, "Where?" I was like, "I'm a piece of shit. Like, where are you guys?" Like, but they were just, and that's a joke, obviously. But I was just like, "This is really lovely."
I think what correlates for me and permission. Well, what correlates for me in the conversation that we've had so far is showing yourself to be goofy, lame, words that we're banding around without any kind of judgment to them, just like clownish or whatever. Also, kind of gives permission. There's a mutual permission giving, but where somebody can then relate to that or see it and go, oh, that's a part of me as well, that they might not even accept in themselves. There's this version of me, or somebody that I connect with,
because I read it in Amy Poehler's book.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Right.
Because I remember years ago reading Amy Poehler's book, and I love Amy Poehler. Yeah. And I read it, and she was like, "What is this obsession with like hating things, and that's kind of the kind of like teenage, like cool, like in your early 20s, like this is stupid." And she was like, "What is so bad about loving things?" And I remember when I read this, I was like, "Yeah." Like, I love things, and I really care about things. And so that's the other thing, when I care, I'm a really big feminist. I was really laughing because I did this interview in the Netherlands, and this guy was like, you're a bit of a feminist. And I was like, I don't think I'm hiding it. Like, I'm a pretty big feminist.
I've looked into this.
And then he said, well, how does your boyfriend feel about that? Which, you know, is a thing in itself. But I'm
imagining a guy in his 60s. Is he? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was old.
Okay. I like the idea that somebody...
I know. It's really made me laugh. Every time I think about it, well, what does your boyfriend think about that?
I mean, do you have a boyfriend?
Yeah. It's like, is he okay with that? You bra-burning weirdo. But, so I really care about women. True. And I really care about the problems that we face as women. And so, you know, that is another kind of lame thing to be like, I actually care about this so much. I'm going to talk about it loads. Like, you know.
And I'm not going to hide it. Because that's the thing that I care loads about. Yeah. Which is, again, permission. Like that. So that journey from, like, in terms of starting, was there a snowballing effect for you at any point, or where you noticed it all kind of click into place? Not all click into place, but that particular thing click into place of like, oh, these things that I feel I shouldn't be talking about on stage, I'm just gonna, I don't know what attitude, fuck it, I'm gonna lean into it. It's not because you were always talking about kind of stuff that was, but I think
like it was more the other way around, where I could feel a pull towards something else. Like I felt with the deadpan thing. I would feel this, like, if I go this way, we're going the wrong way. And I felt the same way I was about to speak Dutch. For example, about when it's like, just talk more about the Dutch thing. I could feel a real pull of like, that would be a successful area for me to go. You know, I could be one of these acts that it just talks about, because I'm an outsider here. I could just do, like, I would be such a good club act. I am not a very good club act, but I would be such a good club act if I just did, you guys are like this, we're like this. That's the difference. And I have some bits like that because I wrote them because I like them. But when those were the bits that people just loved and they didn't love any of the feminist stuff, it was a real, like, don't go that way. It's not what you actually are. It's not what you care about. So it was more like I could see the success. And I was like, no. And that was more of it.
It's that old, you know, I think Sunil uses it in one of his routines, like the train comes, but it's full of people, you know, the train towards, as you're making it, comes and it's full of people that you don't like. You're like, oh, well, we'll get there quicker, but I'm going to wait for the next train.
That's you know? Great. I wanted, it's not that I don't want to talk about being Dutch. I'm a Dutch person. I'm proud of that.
And you will talk about it, but
it's part of my identity, but it's not all of me. And the feminism part, I would say, is a much larger part of it than the Dutch part. And that should be reflected in the shot.
And it's, you know, and finding things to talk about, I think, is often something where you feel it's been underserved to you in your life. So going, oh, I need to voice this because nobody's voicing it. I don't hear people voicing it.
No.
So that kind of passion of let's talk about a thing that means something to me. Because if you know, if everybody,
you know, I love Michelle Wolf. And whenever I see her stuff, I'm like, yes, exactly. You know. And I want my audience to feel that way. And when I meet my girl in my audience, I do feel like that's what they like. It's so cool. Which is, but is also so reassuringly, like, resonant. You know, there's a congruence to it. They're just closing the first show, and you're on the second show. But it won't start for a while yet, Barry.
Well, I was just going to talk about how you. So when you leave the stage, there's just the lines that you've got on stage, because I don't know, I don't want to, with the podcast we only show kind of like 30 seconds to 40 second clip, but what's the line? A sticky one-eyed freak.
And then even if they do, if you make it, if you win, if you're most mature, what is your prize? You get to stand all alone in a dark hallway. Best case scenario, some slimy dude some sticky one-eyed freak.
I don't know how much. I'm curious in terms of the act out of how much you've rehearsed it, because when you were playing the egg in the corridor, you grounded yourself very purposely. You were in the right, like you were very much embodying being in a corridor, and also taking on a different physical kind of shape or being with the sperm.
Yeah, right.
Like how, when you're working an act out, is it just on stage you work it, or do you do anything off stage?
I write it off stage.
Yeah.
The act out was all on stage.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I want? What does my body want to do?
Yeah.
To
how do you want to
make
play
this
around?
point clearer.
Yeah.
And that's how the whole thing came about. Yeah.
So one of the things, you've just come off tour.
Yes.
How was your experience then? So you were on your own.
Yeah.
You were kind of like
Boy, is that lonely.
Yeah. How was that?
Don't recommend that.
Really?
No.
For that reason.
But
would you have gone back and paid for the tour of support even?
No, because I couldn't.
Because you can't afford it. Yeah.
I couldn't.
So like.
But I I'm thankful for this knowing how hard it was.
Yeah.
Because when I did have support.
Yeah.
Because there were 3 shows where I did, 2 shows where they were my big shows, and I was like, I'm gonna have support for those, and one in London, one in Amsterdam, and then the someone had messaged me and said, I'm doing my tour show there in like a week's time or whatever.
Oh, nice.
I have a couple more tickets to shift. If you just pay for petrol, can I just come on and like plug the show?
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, that's amazing. Free support. Are you serious? So I got them on, and
was this in the UK or Netherlands?
UK, okay. And because I knew him, and he's amazing, and I was just like, God, is it easier?
Yeah.
Unbelievable how much easier it is. And so that was, I felt so thankful.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
This is
amazing.
Yeah, this is a held show.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, I will never forget how hard it is.
Yeah.
And I will never be one of those acts who's like not thankful for their support.
Yeah. You're anchored.
And I wouldn't have been anyway.
Yeah.
But I really won't now.
But it's also all of the stuff around touring is really tough on your own anyway. In the sense of,
lonely.
I mean, there's just a loneliness. You're going on your own. You turn up at the theatre. You meet the station manager. You might do a tech run, but it's all you. Just you. On nobody to mess around with. Nobody to kind of like. I guess I'll walk. I'm a bit early. I'll walk around town. And it's not. I'm not complaining from. Oh, this is the hardest job in the world. I just mean that there's an element of. Like, it's such a lovely experience.
But it's so different also from what we normally do.
Yeah, which is
we're here in green rooms and we chat.
Yeah.
So my experience of comedy always has been with other people. And all of a sudden I was there by myself and I don't know anybody, and you're just sitting there.
Yeah.
By yourself with no one to talk to.
What's the protocol?
Yeah, what do you do?
Did you end up phoning people?
I would just like sit and eat the meal that I brought in my thermos. And read or play a puzzle.
You became fully Dutch.
Yeah, like absolutely. But it was just like, oh, this has nothing to do with what I've done previously. And also so I'm really thankful I've done it, and I will continue to do it if it makes no financial sense to have an opener, because I just am too practical for that. But I will be so happy every time I have somebody to talk to, to share it with.
Yeah, well, there's the sharing of it. I think having somebody else to just what I think is interesting, I hadn't really thought of, is that we get a lot here at the Bill Murray. We get a lot of bigger acts come through, like Kevin Bridges or whatever. Do shows.
You get all the big
doing on the tours.
Yeah.
And they always love the club element of there's other people in the room, they enjoy chatting to people, but I'd never really perceived it from that experience of like, oh, actually they just like, there's other people to hang out with.
They're
that
lonely,
are also comedians.
They're lonely.
That's what I'll say. Oh, you're just lonely, are
you?
You're
just lonely.
You're talking to me. Why are you calling me?
Hey buddy.
Hey. How are you doing? Do you want to make you a cup of tea?
I mean, that's not the only reason they love it here.
But also I just never I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, no,
You know,
it's lonely. It's lonely.
Like,
and this is why people are like, to touring,
Yeah.
even though you're actually paying to, you know, the people who, and there's other things that are really hard, like when you're, you know, not like, I've had really lovely full shows, and then of course you have shows where it's like not full at all, and you know, because it's the first one, and especially on the first one, like we were just going to play, I don't know, are there people here?
Yeah.
You don't know. Like, it's so funny in the beginning. You have no data. You know, to back up.
Yeah.
Should we be going here?
So did you? Is that data online? Do you? I know
there is, but
data
you know,
wranglers
it doesn't.
that find
It
that
doesn't.
out.
Yeah, no, there are, but there are ways of doing it, but it's not, you know, foolproof. And also, there are just places where, especially again, the UK machine of it all. But there are just places where people go, and there are places where I won't go back because I'm like, you're not here, and that's okay. Yeah. Like this is not like this is not a shameful thing. You're just somewhere else. So that's also why we've done like a tour extension, and we're going to way more places in Europe. You know, we're going back to some of the places in the UK, but we're going to way more places in Europe because that's where they are. You know. I went to Germany, and I'm like, oh, you're here.
Like that Camden Head audience.
Exactly.
It's an international
That's my
thing.
audience.
Like,
You know?
And online
there's more
is
of them in
international.
France than there are in, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
What's a small place here? Like, it's just like...
Hull.
Yeah, they're not there. They're not in Hull.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's true.
Well, I don't know
they're
if you
in
saw...
München.
Your people are in München.
Yeah.
There's did you see Heckler's Welcome? I don't know if James Acaster
Munich,
did this in the... What's that?
Munich. Yeah.
Munich. München.
Cologne.
Cologne. James Acaster mentioned about, I think he might have just done it here. I don't know if it was in the tour show, because I don't see it in big arenas. I only see it here. But he was saying along those lines that he just won't ever go to certain places again. It's just like, because there's a difference between doing the material here in London, or, you know, in front of people that he kind of would kind of vibe with, but when you're that size, when you're James Acaster on TV, on Netflix, on everything, then people just want him to do it, you know, like want to turn up and watch him do the Brexit tea bit or whatever whatever it is that they think of him, and the stuff that he wants to talk about, it's kind of like, oh, they're not laughing, they're not going for that. So that kind of like sadness of like, oh, I am selling the tickets, but I'm not, nobody's enjoying it in the way that I intended.
And there's a different language, you know, to comedy everywhere. You know, and the differences will be smaller between different places in the UK. But in a way, for me, from London to Berlin is smaller for me than from London to Hull. You know, because like there are just like, I don't know, it's just a few two steps too far. Me not being from here, me being a girl, me being like, you know, it's like there are just a couple of like, maybe one of those things is fine, but not all of them. You know what I mean? And so it's just a couple of steps too far.
It feels like you're Hull voicing that. I'm sorry, just one of those things.
But it kind of, and you know, one of my really early gigs out of London was in Hartlepool, and the has a way of kind of comforting me, but I don't know if he kind of misunderstood or something, but I don't know, it was so confusing. But the promoter said, they're really nice, they just don't like women or foreigners. And I always remember that as a sort of like, you're not wrong. Maybe one of those would have been okay, but I am both. And so there's just it feels like too big of a cultural gap. And so there are just places where I'm like, I'm not saying there's no one here, but you know, not again, there will be more people in Munich than there. So it just means that you kind of think about touring just in a slightly different way, because you just have to think about different places. But it also is very exciting for me because I'm like, it's starting to be less and less important where I live. Gives me a little bit more freedom to maybe potentially one day not live here. It's
you
really
can
cool.
a bit of freedom to go where you want. Like one of the questions I have around that is how that then dictates what you're then doing. So one of the when you mentioned about coming to Edinburgh, so I dated a fantastic comedian called Catherine Navrana. She helped create this place. It was like, this was her DNA is in the Camden Head, and she's brilliant, and a fantastic comedian. And one of the things that she also found that I recognise echoed in what you were saying is coming from Greece. And just seeing the whole system set up and not really understanding the system, but I've got to do this now. And I was constantly on her, go to Greece, go back to Greece. You're brilliant, but people aren't appreciating you here as much as they could do. But that system also, the system that's set up here, there's a sense of kind of, being able to circumvent it means that you're also circumventing a lot of decision makers that are telling you you're not good enough because you don't appeal to people in Hartlepool. So there's a freedom as well.
This is what I mean about the social media thing. It's like because you can speak directly to you can speak directly to the person who will like you. You can kind of go like, it's okay that you don't. And there are milestones that you can reach here that I haven't, and at one point have deliberately said, I'm not seeking that. Like, I'm okay that I am not doing that. And it was been so liberating because you're just like, oh, I'm not seeking their approval. Because the who cares? Like, and who cares?
You can't win that over. Like, that's an argument. You can't be either male or not foreign. That's not a thing that you
can't win that up. But even like the people who are looking for that, who are maybe interested in that you're a woman and foreign, but maybe not cool enough to be part of a certain club or whatever. Like, I've definitely had that. But again, it's like, I don't have to be like, I'm okay. I'm okay. I don't have to be part of like the cool in crowd who's different. It's like, I'm not that, then I'm not different enough. And I'm actually like, that's fine, because online I can go directly to the person who is me and who does want this and who does like it. But in the woman and four thing, I think is interesting because like, I was thinking about like, one of the reasons that it's going so well in the Netherlands where I'm from is because I do have the I'm from here thing. So it's like, if you think of me as like my main two attributes being like that I'm Dutch and I'm a feminist, if that is like the two things, then like some people there will also come and pay for tickets just because I'm Dutch. And you know what I mean? And it's like
and there's that sense of kind of bond tribe that kind of comes.
It's so lovely. And then they come and maybe they're not that into the feminist thing, but it's okay because they like want to be there because they want to, because there's enough of a connection there.
And kind of like reflection of self, I think sometimes. One final question I'll ask, because it really is getting close to you've got to run.
I was really laughing when you continued on because I was like, I was just kidding, but I love it. I love it. Continue. One last question. Let's do it.
So, how does that then reflect on where you want to go and what you want to do? So, like taking, for example, just you could play, like you love act outs. You could absolutely be doing kind of sketch stuff. You could be doing more kind of TV sketches. You could be doing sitcom stuff. You could be doing, but like in terms of being confident with your audience and being confident that this is who I am and this is what I'm projecting.
Well,
do you have a sense of where you'd like to go?
Yeah, I'm hoping to do more and I'm hoping to do different stuff. But ultimately, I also think that if I could just grow this as it is, I would also be happy.
Like, let's do another tour, build.
And that is not me saying like, I am a very ambitious person and I would absolutely love to do more and other things. And, I would love to, at some point, make a TV show or whatever the other avenues are that you can do. But I don't think I ever even thought I would get here. And I haven't lost that sense of... Oh my God. Like when I did that show in the Netherlands, it was at Theater Carré, this big theater in Amsterdam. And I have seen shows there as a student. And it's like a beautiful old building on the canal. It is just like an institute. And to me, I was like, I thought maybe, But I don't think I ever genuinely was like, and then one day I will play in Theatrica. And when it happened, I was like, already this is like genuinely incredible that I've done this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope it's loads more.
Yeah.
But if it just continues on as this, then that would also be fucking amazing.
Yeah, that sense of making it is making it. You're making stuff. You're doing it. You're fucking doing it.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was great, but you need therapy.